Hi guys, it's Jakub. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Pergamin, which is a data-driven contract automation platform for business. And I would like to tell you a few words how we are using NLP technology to streamline contract processing and to provide proper analytics of contracts to our clients. So, according to Forrester Consulting, 98% of companies are struggling with effective drafting, signing, and managing contracts. And more than 50% of those companies would like to improve their business by automating repetitive manual processes. Uh, and due to our knowledge, most of those companies are concentrated in improving their workflow by implementing a signature. And of course, the question is it really enough? So, of course, a signature is in many times better than signing contracts through pen and paper. There is no doubt about it. But there are two main problems. The first, e-signature does not help in coming to the moment when parties of the contract say yes. So it doesn't help in drafting, tweaking, and negotiating the contract in an effective way. And the second thing is e-signatures tools most often use PDF as a main format. And PDF is not the best idea when you want to really streamline contract process. Why so? And why do we think that PDF is a serious barrier to bringing contract processing to the next level? So, contract is not an essay. It's by design a mix of business data and legal content, which are interconnected to each other by contract ontology. And what is contract ontology? What contract ontology is the basic structure, it's the logic of a contract, which helps in understanding mutual relationship among the do's and don'ts of each party. So it's the obligation part of each party. And what more, there is also an interesting relationship among three types of languages: legal language, programming language, and natural language. So if we draw an axis and try to put on this axis three elements: programming language, legal language, and natural language. Natural language can be put somewhere on the left hand side of the axis, and programming language will be somewhere on the opposite side of the axis. So where should we put the last element? Is it more similar to natural language? Actually, not really. Due to its structure, legal language is much closer to programming language than to natural language. And why is it so? As I said, it's the result of its structure. And what's the structure of both languages? So when we think about the structure of conditional expression, which is characteristic to programming language, it consists of three main elements: if, then, and else. And when it comes to contract provisions, or in general legal norms, their basic structure also consists of three elements: hypothesis, disposition, and sanction, which in fact is if then else structure. So contracts can be easily explained through conditional expressions, so their structure can be defined by programming language. So if both languages are so close to each other, why not to combine those two worlds? And that's why we are pushing forward the evolution of a digital contract. Today, contract process is mostly based on PDF and paper. And paper for us is actually a non-digital PDF. But we believe that the future of contracts is more like a database. So it will be probably a JSON format, which is well prepared to reflect contract structure and can easily transfer data from a database directly to the contract. But because of course companies have the data somewhere, which is somewhere hidden, like in CRMs, in HRMs, there are data about the clients, about employees, about the transactions which are held by the companies, and those data is then transferred into documents, and it is done manually, and we would like to automate the process and to automate contract drafting. But how can we get from PDF to JSON without struggling? Of course, it's a proper question to ask. So that's why we are delivering the NLP based engine, which helps companies in going from 0, which is a PDF stage, to 1, which is a JSON stage, and it is held in 4 main steps. So we are starting from the left-hand side. So it's an optical character recognition, which helps us to get from PDF into text into numbers, let's say vectors. So the second step is named entity recognition, which helps us to extract business data from the contract, which will be then turned into variables in the contract. Then the third step is data labeling. So it's a finding and naming legal provisions which are found in the contract. And when we get those 3 steps, then we can turn into 4th step, which is getting the legal ontology of a contract. So the first step, when it comes to OCR, we decided to connect via API to the solution which has already been made and gave us the best results, which is the Google Vision AI. It also supported a Polish language, and of course, it gave us the best results in working with legal documents, but we also tested tools from AWS and from Microsoft. The second step is named entity recognition. So as I said, we are finding there the business data, which is then extracted, which is aggregated, which is named because there are some characteristics of this data. So we identify the key data, enter them into variables to reuse the data in dynamic templates. So when it comes to the third step, we are concentrating on the legal part. So we try to identify and aggregate all the legal provisions which are found in the contract. So we use NLTK package. We use 2 vectorizers. One of them is CountVec, and the second of them is TF-IDF-Vec. And for classification manners, we use logistic regression with custom hyperparameters. And when we use this method, we obtained over 90% of accuracy in the contract clause recognition, but of course there is still a lot to improve. And now we are concentrated in HR and in business contracts, so contracts with B2B clients actually. So what's more, we don't use lemmatization. It performed worse, probably because of the properties of the legal language. Our final step is to get the contract ontology. So we are comparing what we found in this particular contract with things that was found in the previous contracts, and we try to connect the legal provisions and the business data to capture the dependencies among the provisions and to reflect the contract structure. But of course, this is only the beginning. We want not only to use the NLP to get from the walls of text into JSON format, but we also plan to extend the analysis of the contracts into the next steps in contract lifecycle. So of course we are automating contract drafting, but we want to implement the NLP functionalities like recommendation engine, which is based on the legacy contracts of each company. So when the company was proceeding in the past contract, and the negotiation process was performed in a particular way, it can be reused in next negotiations. And of course, there are many other ideas that we want to implement. So we want also to help in negotiation part using NLP. So of course, both internal and external negotiations. And so we want to recognize the patterns. We want to recognize some threats which are identified in the negotiation part, and they were somehow recognized in the past as those which are generating a risk for a company. But what for do we need to analyze the contract structure? Because as I said, the main thing for us is to cut down the time. We want to automate the process. And of course, as always, the best example is the one which comes directly from the battlefield. And of course, our battlefield are the use cases of our clients. So the best validation is also always the one which comes from using the tool by the market. And one of those clients is Atrium European Real Estate Management. It's one of the largest shopping mall managers in whole CEE. And Atrium is using Pergamin for the lease and service contract with their B2B tenants. And Pergamin is integrated through API with Atrium's online booking platform, which is called Atrium Connect. And the process is as follows. So the tenant logs into Atrium Connect and can select a retail space for rental and enter some parameters like a date range, like a purpose, and any additional services they want to have together with the commercial space. And when the data is saved in Atrium Connect, it is aggregated and sent directly through API to Pergamin. And in Pergamin, Atrium has their modular dynamic templates of contracts, which have its ontology built inside. So the final structure of a particular contract depends on the data received by Pergamin, which is filled in by the contractor in Atrium Connect. And Pergamin automatically adjusts the appropriate content of the contract and generates a draft, which is perfectly tailored to a given case, because as I said, it depends on the data which was filled to Atrium Connect and then sent to Pergamin through API. And then Pergamin sends a link to the tenant to allow his signature. And of course, thanks to the process, Atrium is able to close the deal without any assistance from Atrium's side. So long story short, Atrium gets info about the sales process is done after the deal is closed, so after the contract is signed. So you should think about it like SaaS sales for a retail space. So actually the deal can be closed in minutes from the decision of a client. So to sum up, we as Pergamin want to turn contracts into data. And of course, we want to push forward the contract evolution process from PDF to JSON format, because we believe that translating walls of text into database format, which is readable by AI, can enable intelligent contract process automation. So it's a contract automation process which depends on understanding of a contract by technology. It's not only getting the data from one place to another place, but somehow the data is aggregated during the process in real time. So finally, maybe a few words about our company. So Pergamin is a Warsaw-based startup. We are operating since 2017. We are a mix of 25 people with different competences, but we all are designing and delivering user-centric tools to revolutionize the way people and businesses are working with contracts. And our main goals, of course, are cutting down time to signature of business and HR contracts. So we want, to shorten the process as much as possible. And also we want to provide tools to get a proper analytics data. So we want to optimize contract processes in a data-driven way. And we believe that NLP technologies can help us in this mission. And of course, the question is, would you like to join us on this mission? If so, don't hesitate to send us a message on hello@pergam.in. And thank you guys for today. I hope it was interesting, both for business and technical people. So have a nice afternoon and see ya.